And again, opening them up to the possibility that even when they are suffering with a problem or an anxiety or a pain, which are all, normal things within the range of normal experience as we grow and learn, that doesn't mean that they are an anxious person, and so on and so forth. That, we have the capacity to change, and sometimes that change can be, helped along by taking advice from other people or helping somebody else out of a certain situation and that kind of thing. I've definitely noticed a tendency of my own children to take things on board a little easier when it comes from somebody else. It's just the way it is. We'd all love to be the super effective father.
Semi-universal experience there.
His children listen to him. But I've also noticed that sometimes it takes time. You say something, or you suggest something, or somebody suggests, says something about their experience, and it takes a few days, and then they take their own action. They act upon that, probably forgotten that it was ever suggested to them. So I'd love parents to just be more aware of the language that they use, more aware of the, manipulative tactics that they use, and ultimately to give their children more freedom and allow them a fuller range of expression. It'll all work out in the end.
And for the tough stuff, you can make a pact with your friends to tell your kids so that it doesn't come from you.
Yeah, I just think sometimes it needs to. And if you are lucky enough to have, friends that you trust, and friends who are, friends with your children, and that stuff happens naturally. You don't have to set it up necessarily.
Right.
It will just kind of emerge that way. But so much of what the pressures on kids generally as they grow, but perhaps even more so, or perhaps more immediately and acutely these days, with the abundance of instant gratification, social media, all that kind of stuff, which we worry about a lot and we fuss about a lot, and we will see how it plays out on our children's attention spans. But maybe they will just have, because of all this stuff, maybe they will have more freedom and more space to push, the human potential and condition on. People had these fears about TV. They had these fears about radio. They had these fears about books.
Yeah.
It's always a next generation kind of gap that we worry about. But it's the stuff that's going on right now with technology and communication, it's unstoppable. You have to embrace it, and sure, it's lovely if your kids go outside and play. It's lovely if your kids can entertain themselves without a digital device. But the moment you start saying it must be this way, you're just creating desire for that thing. So I guess it's balance, but knowing when to give up and climb down and give them the space to make mistakes, that's, I've had to learn these lessons just like everybody else has as a parent. He doesn't,
allowing.
Yeah. And there's sometimes people mistake that liberalism for don't you care? And it's like, no, but I remember, I wanted to be free. I also thought my parents didn't have a clue. And years later, it turns out they may have been right, but it's a bit like, giving your kids good food, real food, encouraging them to be in the kitchen, encouraging them to see you cooking, encouraging them to sit around a table, all of that stuff. There's a time when suddenly they're going to reject all of it, and they're going to want to eat things that you don't approve of, and they're going to show no interest in all this years of effort you made. I'm a believer that it will come back to them. The moment they start to become young adults or have some control over their life, you know, they'll suddenly take an interest in that stuff again. But, you know, you just can't make them do things.